My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there, and welcome to WTA Weekly. We're back, and we're very excited, not just because it's about to be Indian Wells, but also because we have for the first time, it's Brenna. Brenna, how you doing?
I'm good, Nick. Thanks for having me on. Excited to talk some WTA.
Yeah, it's been great. I always like new people to talk WTA with, and certainly plenty of people here who would be up for watching us. This will probably be a shorter show than usual because I guess the title kind of suggests that we'll get into kind of the individual results in a minute, but big picture in terms of like the overall tour, given the fields at play here, probably not a lot to read into things, unlike the last couple of weeks across Doha and Dubai.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think you had a little bit of a weaker field, especially for a 500. But that's obviously typical coming off of two 1,000s there in the Middle East.
Well, okay, let's get into it. So this week we've had, very rarely, two top seeds winning titles. Interestingly, which very rarely happens, even on the ATP tour. But you want to pick up on a point that you made about sort of weaker fields, we talk about our first story, which is Merida, and Emma Navarro is the champion in Merida, who, as you can see, celebrating pretty hard there with a pretty impressive 6-love win over Emilia Arango, who, quite frankly, sort of fought her way through the draw, obviously included qualifying as well. But Navarro was just obviously too good in the final. But it does provoke the question, as I have seen some asking on social media, was this the easiest 500 run ever?
Yeah, I think on paper it looks that way. I think it is important though that semifinal versus Alina Evanesian, who obviously has been moving her way up the ranks over the past 9 months, and she's clearly a threat. Kind of like a similar game style to Navarro. Definitely a flat, compact backhand that she can dictate with well. But ultimately, super fit, is able to grind down anyone. And so I think that was probably, the real final in Merida.
Yeah.
So it definitely was easier than what we are used to seeing. But like I said, I just think the time of the year, going from the Middle East, where Navarro hasn't really, or she didn't play well. So this is obviously a huge confidence booster, especially coming back to home soil, and has an opportunity to continue that momentum throughout the Sunshine Double.
Yeah, I wanted to actually talk to you about Navarro there. Because obviously she's now, what was she, number 8 or number 9 going into the event? There was a risk she was actually going to drop out the top 10 after this. Winning the title and Badossa's results meant that actually Andreeva's staying in the top 10 last week. But I guess my question would be, is Navarro performing as expected? Certainly this season so far. If you just look at this week, given, I think this might be the first time from my perspective that she's gone in and won matches that we've expected her to as like the favorite, which since she's broken out the ITFs and the 125Ks where she was currently, she racked up so many points in the end of 2023. We haven't really seen her do that on the main tour until this week, I feel.
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned, just the time of the year, obviously it wasn't a great start. She did go far in Australia, and then lost a convincing performance to Iga. But, these are the type of courts where you kind of have to hit through her, and that's such a difficult situation on this type of court. That's why I think a Badosa Navarro final that was tracking, and hopefully Paula's feeling okay. She retired with a back injury, but these type of courts, her style of play, it's just, I think what stands out for Emma Navarro is her consistency. Especially with this type of field, you don't have to do a crazy amount from the dictating and offensive part of the game. Obviously, we saw last night with, I know, a little bit of a dream-filled run coming from qualies for Arango, but she doesn't have a crazy amount of weapons. She's more of a grinder type, and obviously, she was physically fatigued coming off the title in Cancun, and then obviously another long week. But yeah, I think this is definitely a stepping stone for Emma as she continues to, prove herself on this tour, and obviously is now almost a top 10 mainstay. And now there's 4 Americans there. So, the competition, continues to get tougher.
And let's face it, actually, I think, and barring a crazy run in Indian Wells, which let's face it, this WTA season, why not? It does seem to be a pretty interesting 4-way fight to stay in the top 10 between Zheng Qinwen, Emma Navarro, Paula Badosa, and Merida Andreeva. And obviously, one of them is always going to miss out because Andreeva is now 11. But they are separated by so few points. It's a little bit of a fascinating lineup, especially when we get into Indian Wells.
Right, and it'll be interesting to see. I know we haven't touched on Austin yet, but Madison Keys, we haven't seen her since her title run, so a lot to look forward to here.
That will probably factor into our Indian Wells preview, which we're not going to do too deep, too much of, but I wanted to kind of focus on some other stories. I guess you've touched on a few other stories that came out of Merida. Obviously, Badosa's back injury, like you, I hope she's okay. She hasn't aggravated anything, because that was the thing. She was potentially career-ending for her, and thankfully that hasn't happened. Because she got that sort of, she got that performance spike to get her back into the top 10. May have overplayed recently, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously, we talked about Arango making the final, and like off the back of the WTA of her 125K title in Cancun. The Avanesian, I liked that you mentioned her. She is in a she played really, really well. She's obviously a friend of the show. She's not in our intro, but John did interview her in Berlin in 2023, and I was very impressed by the way that she came back against a young and somewhat promising player by the name of Maya Joint, who is 18 years old from Australia, and has started to make some waves this season, has been going deep in a lot of tournaments. And I know that you had some questions about her. I don't know if you wanted to fire them my way. I can't. You were saying before we came on air that you actually hadn't seen her play.
Yeah. I've heard a lot about the forehand and how powerful that is, and obviously at such a young age. We talk about the WTA and how Mira Andreeva is a little bit of an outlier in terms of making these types of runs and moving up the ranks so quickly at such a young age. So I'm just curious to hear more about her game and how you think she can progress against the ultra competitive field.
So I watched a couple of Joint's matches actually. So I was curious because I saw the score against Donna Vekic that she had, which was really one-sided, that scoreline. and it was impressive. And I was like, how on earth did she beat Donna Vekic in 2 relatively straightforward sets? And the answer is that they weren't that straightforward. I think Donna was making a lot of errors, but what impressed me was the errors were coming because she was the one to break down first in long rallies. The first set, Joint won that match by playing 2 very different sets. The first set, she kind of won through consistency, getting the ball back, making Donna play the extra ball, being there, having really great movement. Yes, she was able to get that forehand into play a few times, but it didn't feel like she was putting everything into it. Maybe there was some nerves. Maybe she was playing smartly, which is what I think was going on, because the second set, she turned it up and changed it. And like, I think for the opponent, that's going to be really frustrating. If you think of a game plan to beat your opponent is playing one way, and then she comes out and starts playing much more aggressively. And it was interesting, like, again, that forehand, she's able to place it really deep, real great pace on it. And that's what she was doing to Donna. And that's what she was doing to Avanesian in the first set. But unfortunately, Avanesian kind of locked in. She's a very consistent hitter when she needs to be. And Joint started making some errors. And that's coming from a little bit of experience, lack of a little bit of, there's still things that still need to be solidified in her game. But I think if you combine big hitting with patience, that's a very, very promising player right there, because you're not going to see the kind of errors that you get from players with big weapons who like to rely on them. We've seen that make a huge difference in Arina Sabalenka's game, especially in recent years, where she's really ironed out a lot of the inconsistent elements in her game. And I think that's what makes Maya Joint an intriguing prospect for me, as well as, obviously, for any Australian fans, their next big female hope, probably since Sam Stosur.
Yeah, no, that's exciting to hear. I think, it's important. I think going up a set against Nessie is a big deal. Would you want to talk a little bit about kind of what broke down in those final sets? Was it fatigue? I know you talked about the grinding of Nessie and just making too many balls, but
yeah, Avanesian, I think Avanesian got better. And I think there's a lot of, when people talk about this course of like what happens in a match and that like players don't maintain certain levels throughout, like, oh, their level dropped and that was what did it. I think what happens, a player's level drops because their opponent level rises and they can't figure out how to deal with it. And so I actually think that positive play impacts how a tennis match progresses much more than a negative play. It does happen, but positive play, I think, has more impact. And I think Avanesian kind of standing her ground a bit. But what was interesting was when Joint still had purple patches, and when she was on purple patches, she was out hitting Avanesian. And so I think what happened was she lost a little bit of patience. Maybe the fact she was up a set and in a quarterfinal of a 500 kind of got ahead of her a little bit. It's speculation because we don't know what's in someone's head, and I don't want to definitively say that's what happened. But I would say that looking at it, I think Avanesian started playing better, started playing more consistently. Joint didn't quite adjust to that as well as she could have, but still showed promising moments throughout the last 2 sets.
Good. All right. That's great to hear. I think there's one more thing I want to touch on in terms of Emiliana Arango. I think, I think she's one to watch. Coming into this week, she didn't have high expectations, not only big picture, but in terms of her personal, herself. She just won the 125K in Cancun, so she's coming off a high, and she's got to play qualies of the next tournament, which is a 500. But I think it's important to lean on her ability to adapt. I've seen her as more of a clay courter, obviously, but it's important to watch her kind of counterpunch, play close to the baseline, and kind of be willing to outgrind these players on a slower hard court. So I think it'll be fun to watch her going forward.
Yeah, she definitely comes alive in the Americas. I am interested to see if she ruffles any feathers in Miami, because that's probably the biggest tournament out there in conditions that she would like, in terms of weather anyway. Court speed, maybe not so much. But yeah, Arango could be. I think I like her as I like the fact she's a grinder. I think that makes, obviously, for some great clay court matches. Although it would be very, very, that if she's going to play Sara Sorribes Tormo, that's a 4-hour effort all over it. Let's be honest.
Right. No matter where that match is played.
Pretty much. All right. Well, that's about 15 minutes or so on Merida. So let's turn to the other event that was happening, the 250 event, which was won by the higher ranked player, but she was the higher ranked player in the field by miles, especially after the departure of Diana Schneider relatively early in the tournament. I am, of course, referring to Jessica Pegula, who picked up a title, and she's top 4 again, number 4. She's picking up the titles that she should. But it's interesting that obviously her form's been a bit more patchy in the last 12 months, other than that Berlin title that she got, which was really impressive, and then that US hardcourt season that she had, or North American hardcourt season she had, with like a 1,000 title, 1,000 final, Grand Slam final. If it wasn't for Arina Sabalenka, she probably would have swept that period. But then it's not been quite that again. How much do you think she needed this title, Brenna?
I mean, I think it's important, and I think it's honestly similar to the Navarro situation, where for Pegula gets to come back on U.S. soil and is going to spend, more or less a month and a half here. So it's a great opportunity to, feel comfortable at home, not feel too much pressure, obviously, given the field. But yeah, when you're the 1 seed and expected to win, you carry a little bit of baggage. But, this is important, not only mentally, but it's good to get, her form back and going. And I think this is a positive sign for her. And once again, like I said, similar to Navarro, where now she has an opportunity to build off of her momentum and continue, playing tennis on her terms.
Yeah, and she actually was the one playing tennis on her terms for most of the week. Like, got through pretty much every opponent pretty easily, apart from one, that was Ayla Tomljanovic in the semi-finals, and then Kessler, first set was tough. Pegula won it, even though Kessler probably played slightly better. But yeah, she got the job done in that match, and I was impressed to see what she did. I mean, you watched the was it the Tomljanovic semi-final? You've watched a bit of Tomljanovic this week.
I watched a little bit of her. Yeah. I think her biggest or most important match of the week was versus, apologies for my pronunciation, but Subirahara, where she.
Oh, that was an epic!
Yeah, held the lead multiple times. I think she was up 6-3 in that tiebreak, in that final tiebreak, but she won 10-8 eventually. It's good to see Tomljanovic playing better tennis again. Once again, we're talking about a 250 with a weaker field, but in terms of being a fan favorite, having the opportunity to play better tennis, because we know the type of weapon she possesses, but it's just that inconsistency and health ultimately. So that's why I think this week was great for her. And after that battle, to go and take Pegula to 3 sets was definitely important, and it's once again another a great week, I would say, for her.
Do you have much hopes of Tomljanovic finally winning that WTA 250 title or any title?
I feel like it gets harder every week, because on the WTA tour, we're continuing to find new winners and players who are climbing up the ranks quicker than we think. I'd say it's not going to come anytime soon. Maybe we can find a little clay patch, but it feels a little bit more of a reach at this point in time.
Going back to maybe the overall picture in Austin, obviously we talked about that Pegula Kessler final, and obviously it's great having an American on the show. Would you say that final was good for US tennis? You had established Jessica Pegula going up against McCartney Kessler, who is someone that more and more people are starting to hear of. Obviously Austin had some good crowds. It was a nice location. Just Matthew McConaughey was there, which was a big deal.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, talk to me about how you sort of see maybe that perception of that final being good for US tennis.
Yeah, I'll talk about, I think, just the U.S. women's landscape, and obviously not trying to be any sort of bias here, but I think once again, the timing is perfect. It's a little warm-up event for the Sunshine Double. You got stars down there, good weather, and it's as you mentioned, it's at a great location, great venue in terms of a country club. But yeah, I think the final lived up to what it was, and we talk about McCartney Kessler, also slowly breaking out. I feel like we felt that way about multiple players, but Emma Navarro being one of them. Who works her way from college and is able to work her way up the ranks and gain steam in that way, and making a final. Obviously, having an All-American final in the United States is awesome, but that first set being super, super competitive. It felt like we kind of knew who was going to come out on top, but overall, from a scheme and U.S. appraisal, I think the women's U.S. game is in a great spot, and it's only going to get better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which is going to definitely get lots of fans excited for Indian Wells. We segue in there now. I think that kind of covers all kind of our big stories. So certainly we get a lot of WTA stars there. You mentioned earlier 4 Americans in the top 10 now. You've got Kessler, who's doing some interesting things. You've got Anna Samova now having won title. That's going to be someone who's hoping to be doing something. But I think one of the big questions going into Indian Wells has to be, has to be the star from the beginning of the year, Madison Keys. Does Madison Keys continue her winning streak?
Why not, Nick? Why not? And I wanted to bring it up. Obviously, things are changing in the WTA in terms of the rebranding, and hopefully we can find some new rules. But Madison Keys was supposed to play in Austin, and given the ruling in terms of you can't have 2 top 10 players in a WTA 250, Madison Keys was forced out of that tournament, was not able to participate, but also happily let Jess Pegula be the 1 seed there. So why not? I did watch a little bit of her training, and I don't want to get too much into Indian Wells. I know we have a show coming up later, so everyone stay tuned. But I was able to watch her play some practice points versus Rybakina, and she was moving smoothly, and the forehand's on fire. So I'm excited.
I mean, she's coming on a confidence high, and a confident Madison Keys is a dangerous Madison Keys, and we saw that in the Australian Open. She probably has more self-belief than she ever has had in her career up to this point. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that translates. Like, I think her progress is probably gonna be the biggest story through the draw of Indian Wells, even though, I mean, she's close to being a top 4 seed. Pegula just pipped her, but she's not far off maybe from claiming a top 4 ranking in her career. And obviously we'd be keeping an eye on the 3 big players, 3 main players of the WTA, being obviously Sabalenka, Swiatek, and Goff, who will also be getting a lot of hype being American. Actually, thoughts on Goff while I'm saying that, because I think, given she likes slower courts, she may have underperformed a little bit at Indian Wells in her career.
Yeah, I would say I thought you were going to bring her up maybe. I think, yeah, I'd say it would be great to see her do well. I think I'd look at the last 9 months and what's circled in my mind is the losses to Emma Navarro and not being able to kind of get out of her own way. I think Coco Gauff beat herself more than Emma Navarro beating her. So, I'm sure she'll come across an American, but hopefully she can gain some momentum in the early rounds and get her game going again and that confidence and back herself.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think if she plays Navarro again, I think I'd still make her the favourite. It would be silly to suggest that Navarro's going to have an advantage of her for any length of time. Yeah, still one of the players to talk about. And then one last thing I did want to mention before we sign off. We're going to do like a half-hour show today. Obviously, one of the big talking points going into this Indian Wells is they've changed the surface provider, which now the big unknown is that going to change anything about how the ball plays? Is it still going to be slow? Is it going to be a bit more medium, a bit more like Miami? How much the desert sand play into things? These are a lot of unknowns. I think the thing that a lot of people, in terms of a competitive standpoint and sort of the competitive picture, would look at is, given that she has been the player to beat arguably the last 3 years at Indian Wells, given everything about it suits her game, does this reduce Iga Swiatek's chances of winning Indian Wells?
I think it has to, just from a numerical standpoint. But so far from what I've heard, yes, the court's definitely a little bit slicker, a little bit more low bouncing. And we know Indian Wells has historically been super, super slow outdoor track. And obviously the desert conditions having such an impact. So the ball's bouncing a lot higher, and you're not able to hit through the court as much. I think, as we didn't really talk about, but how much of a whirlwind this WTA season has already been, and seeing all these new winners, I think it creates a little bit more pressure, especially being kind of the favorite. And I think it's, kind of similar to, Carlos Alcaraz having the success at Indian Wells. I think with them having that target on their back and this new surface and all these, players who are making their way out playing with confidence, it definitely allows for more opportunity. And I think we'll see some pressure there, but I still would back Iga here to win it all.
Interesting. Yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of other things to talk about. As you said, there's someone's in the live chat saying air temperatures is going to be a factor still as well. And Iga's always in the mix on the hard court, always in the mix, unless it's super fast. And Indian Wells will not be super fast. It's going to be. I would say that she's still going to be one of the heavy favourites, if not. I don't know about the overall favourite. I think Sabalenka's got a point to prove here in Indian Wells as well. We've talked about Keys on a winning streak. Talked about Goff, how it might actually help her out a bit. It's very close to call. I think it's just gone from being Iga being the slight favourite to being the ever so slight favourite, maybe. In my mind, I guess it's difficult here because obviously we don't have a draw. We are Talking Tennis is doing a draw show live reaction, which will be happening in 4 hours from now. So that's 3 p.m. local time in Indian Wells. That's going to be sort of 6 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be 11 p.m. British time and midnight European time. You can see everyone kind of reacting to it. I know there's already a few people signed up to do it. So yeah, I think had we been doing a draw preview, I would be saying, or who are your top 3 players from each section to watch out for as like threats to the top seeds. And when I say the top seeds, I'm currently thinking anyone sort of the top 4 players plus Keys and Rabakina, I would say are probably where I would kind of say. So because we can't do that, I'm going to do a slightly more simplified version. Who are your top 3 players who could spring a surprise in this draw, who are not the top 4 seeds? So that's Sabalenka, Swiatek, Goff, Pegula, Madison Keys, or Elena Rybakina.
Yeah, one player I selected here is hopefully she's not injured or anything, but Karolina Muchova.
Oh,
I think she. I think I might be reading into it a little bit much, but I think these conditions actually play right into her strengths, which is the ability to grind well, especially on her forehand side as well. But she plays with a lot of variety, and she's a difficult opponent who possesses power, and it seems a little bit effortless at points. So I think hopefully these conditions line up well, and her draw is not too difficult, where she's able to squeak through, and then it's just one of those moments when you get into those bigger matches, the numbers kind of go away, and she has a little bit of experience, obviously going deep at Roland Garros. I think that was 2 years ago. So I think she's one to look out for. I'll let you go, and then we'll trade off.
All right. Okay, we'll do trades. Well, I'm going to be boring because Karolina Muchova is one of my 3 as well, because she always is. We're waiting for her to make that breakthrough. She seems to be playing well at every tournament she goes to. I would back her to go at least quarterfinals at most events she plays, depending on the level. The lower the level, the further I'd be happy to see her go, or more happy to see her going. Really going to depend on her draw, but I am definitely going to have to go with Karolina Muchova as well.
Awesome. All right, I'd say my next player would be Marta Kostyuk. I think she's been one of my WTA favorites for a while. Really like her game style. She hits so beautifully off both wings. Super athletic, super fit. And I know she's dealt with a little bit of some mental issues here and there, but I've really liked her kind of positive outlook on the sport recently, and trying to build that confidence within her. She always puts up a great fight, no matter who she's playing. So I think she has that ability, especially out here on a little bit slower of a surface.
Yeah, I would agree. And she's a semi-finalist for here last year, right? Was it Indian Wells or Miami in the semis? Actually, she made one of the double semis. I'm pretty sure she lost to Iga. Yeah. It was Indian Wells because Iga didn't win Miami. So yeah, she got to the semis last year, and then Marta was on. I'm not going to put Marta in my top 3 because it's kind of a bit because it's close, but I would definitely say she's worth considering. Yeah, especially since she likes these conditions, and I think she's definitely a dangerous player in this draw at the moment. Okay. My next player, Clara Tauson. I am Clara Tauson's hype man at the moment. She has been playing so well. Last player to beat Madison Keys. Pushed Sabalenka in Australia, beat Sabalenka in Dubai, and then only really didn't win the title because she won out of gas, although Andreeva was playing super well. Good other tournaments that she's played as well, going relatively deep. I am very high on Clara Tauson right now. She's going to be seeded finally. I'm very excited to see if she continues this kind of form and her wonderful sort of big hitting from it. So Clara Tauson is going to be my top 3.
Yeah, Nick, I love that selection. I think she's been the most informed, WTA player this season. Obviously, given the number of events she's played, that helps that sort of track record over her 2025 season. But she's been awesome. Ball striking so big, and she's been super confident. My third, I'll put an asterisk, but Badosa, if she's healthy, I like her to make a run. Love these conditions for her. She's always such a threat here. But I'll go on the other side, Mira Andreeva to continue her success. Obviously now kind of getting that title off her shoulders. Can she free herself up a bit? Going here smiling and continuing to play beautiful tennis. She's such a great defender, especially on the forehand side. Like, we don't talk about it a lot, but she doesn't try to overhit out of the forehand corner. If she's, behind in the rally, she goes for kind of a small slice squash shot and push it deep back and looks to neutralize. And I think that's going to be a huge tool in these conditions and allow her to get back on top of rallies and ultimately dictate like she loves to.
Yeah, I agree. I think Andreeva has to be one to watch. She's also, you could technically say, on a winning streak. Obviously, she hasn't played since Dubai, but she's one of the unbeaten players going in to this tournament. It's her and Keys, basically, which is exciting. I think that's going to be she's definitely going to be a name, especially since her game's matured so much. She is playing so strongly. Again, an obvious choice, but the right choice. However, I don't always like making. I don't always like making obvious choices, so I'm actually going to go for someone else, and I'm going to go with someone who is I'm going to say technically undefeated this season. In that, I think both tournaments she's entered, she's retired from both of them. Naomi Osaka, who is Indian Wells champion from 2018. That's where she had her big kind of breakthrough moment on the tour, set her up for that US Open run later in the year. And she is, she's clearly renewed in confidence with her coaching situation. She was playing really exciting tennis in Australia and New Zealand. Really unfortunate not to maybe have got a little bit more out of them in terms of points. But I think she has to be one to watch in terms of what she can do in this draw when it comes out later today. I think Osaka is going to be a story.
Yeah, I love that call, Nick. And I think, time will tell, but these conditions should suit well for her in terms of the ball bouncing up a little bit higher into her strike zone. And she's able to, hit through these opponents in these conditions. Whereas, some other players might struggle. She, as you mentioned, just looked amazing in Australia from a ball striking perspective. And I hope, she's feeling fit and confident. And as you mentioned, that coaching change, I think, has done, huge wonders for her and looking forward to her playing again.
Yeah, I definitely am too. Just want to shout out a couple of things in the live chat that I've seen. I don't normally do that on the show because I prefer to keep it as kind of a podcast listen back to, but I think there's some interesting points being made here. A lot of excitement about Andreeva I'm seeing in here. Kirit putting Svitolina. Yeah, I think this is the kind of setup that could do well for her, but very, very dependent on her form. She's a very form-dependent player. You've got Ozan. I just want to say we're not picking Goff because she's not eligible in the criteria. We're going for our top 3 to watch outside of the top seeds, and Coco Gauff counts as a top seed. So Kirit also putting Ken in. She would be quite an interesting name to watch in the draw, has to be said. I like that. You're reacting pretty well to these, Brenna.
Yeah, I know. I like them all.
Yeah. Nerlan, I will answer your comment about Mira. No, I don't think so, because she likes any conditions. So I cannot think of any conditions that would be tough on Mira. And Capricorn, Garcia. I mean, let's face it, who wouldn't like to see another little bit of slice of Garcia's success? It'd be fun to hear her talking about on her Tennis Insider podcast. If if that were to happen. All right, that's our little bit of a cheeky Indian Wells preview, as much as we can do. Proper preview and proper draw reaction is coming later today, as I've said. It's so again, about 4 hours time, we will either have the draw or have an idea of the draw, and we've got a team reacting to that. Brenna, do you have any thoughts that you would like to share with us before we end the show?
No. Looking forward to another 2 to 3 great weeks of tennis in the United States.
So am I. All right. Well, everyone, it's been great. Thanks, everyone, so much for joining in, for watching. And it's been a good show. Thanks, everyone, for contributing to it and for making it brilliant. WTA Weekly will actually be back in 2 weeks. We wrap up Indian Wells and we find out what happened. And hopefully with a guest who can match Brenna and his knowledge. So in the meantime, see you then. Take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss